Christine Brinker.
Michael Chisholm.
Logan Dunning, present.
Joe Anderson, present.
From the top, I've got Kara. She's here. Okay. Present. Then Tim.
Tim Dodd.
Jess Hall.
And I see Dana. She wants to say hi, and then I've got Jeremiah. Hi, Dana.
Hi, I'm in my car waiting to pick my son up, but I'm listening.
Okay, be safe. And then I've got Jeremiah. Are you there?
Hey everyone, are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little low. I might turn you up somehow.
And also try a different microphone if needed.
Oh, I've got you. I've got you turned up here.
Okay, cool.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Welcome, Dana, our only guest of the evening, as far as I can tell. Let's see. Let's do a quick approval of minutes for October. There's the man. Steven's walking in.
Form maker.
Steven, present.
Present.
Okay, great. Let's move to approval of minutes. I know if you tried to listen to the recording last month, it was a little chaotic. We had a fantastic meeting, remote at Grow Gather. Thanks everybody for showing up. If you weren't able to make it and you have not been to Grow Gather, make a point to go over there, meet George, tell him the commission says hello. That really was a fantastic outing. If there's no discussion on the minutes for last month, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Michael.
Second.
Second by Christine. Thank you. Moving right along. So we've got Jeremiah Garrick. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too much, but to present tonight on turf replacement. One, welcome. Wish I could meet you in person, shake your hand, but thanks for all the work you're doing. Excited to finally put a name to the face. Mel speaks very highly of you, man. So excited to have you on the night and hear what you have to say. I know you've got an interested group here. So can you just start by kind of telling us a little bit about yourself? You know, you're in school. What are you focusing on? And then we can dive into your presentation.
Yeah, so I've actually got most of that information in the presentation as well. Is it
There you
okay
go.
if I just share my slides?
It absolutely is.
Cool. Let me get that pulled up.
Tell me if I need to do something. I'm not touching anything right now. Tim's reporting. Okay.
Might have to share the screen first and then share my presentation.
There it is. I see a goat.
All right.
That's
so just to kind of give an introduction to myself, my name is Jeremiah Garrick, and I'm going to be giving you guys just kind of a short presentation on some research I've been doing based on kind of potentials and benefits of turf replacement and xeriscaping within Inglewood. A little bit about me. I was born in Colorado, raised in Colorado. I attended CU Boulder for 1 year, and this December I'll be graduating from Penn State University with a degree in energy and sustainability policy, as well as a minor in geography, specializing in environment and society geography.
fantastic.
So I'm currently interning with COSA, Colorado's Solar and Energy Storage Association.
Oh, okay.
Very passionate about kind of renewable energy in general, about plants, and about just conserving the natural beauty of our state. So I reached out to Mel just about kind of potentially partnering with the city of Inglewood for a capstone project of some sort for my degree. And we landed on turf replacement being a topic that kind of brings my whole education together, in addition to something that there was public interest in. So turf replacement can offer many different benefits to a community, but it is a process that does take some time and investment. So it's important to understand why more communities and individuals are kind of taking these projects on. One of the biggest reasons is Kentucky bluegrass requires a minimum of about 1.5 inches of water every week during the hot Colorado summers, which I'm sure many of you know and are used to. But Colorado gets about 8 inches of precipitation throughout the whole summer. And so this is being compounded by climate change making summers hotter and precipitation becoming more varied overall. So we're really irrigating a very large portion of non-essential turf throughout the whole state. And that water could be kind of conserved and put to better uses, as we do have options for natural xeriscaping that is aesthetically pleasing, but also does kind of conserve water. And so turf replacement is most attractive to kind of the public due to hopes of lower water bills, less lawn maintenance overall, the environmental and conservation benefits that come with it. Whereas local and state governments, they do have an interest in the environmental and conservation benefits, but they're also trying to meet sustainability goals, keep the soil health good overall, and just encourage kind of best landscaping practices. So I'm going to cover kind of just the steps that go into a turf replacement project. This photo is from an Arapahoe County facility in Littleton that they recently did a 3-acre conversion on. And that's it's definitely a bigger scale than a residential yard, but kind of scales. So I'll just be going over the steps that they went through. So first they had to kind of map out the site. They had to plan the landscaping that they wanted. They had to remove the grass, test and remove some irrigation. And then they had to do some weed control on the grass that they'd removed. Then they added mulch, they added a dry creek bed, and planted a pollinator garden, and then added their PBSL seed mix, which is a native foothills prairie grass seed mix from Colorado. Following the seeding, they raked and dragged the soil, and then there was about 1 month of watering or so. After that initial month, in this case, they decided that they wanted to do some reseeding, but in most cases, the plant should be established after about a month of watering, and there shouldn't be, at least for this seed mix, any additional irrigation needed unless it was in the case of an extreme drought year or something like that. And this would be something that would qualify for Colorado's turf replacement program funding, which was recently passed through Colorado House Bill 221151. And I'll go over that a little bit here as well. So Colorado House Bill 221151 is their turf replacement program. It started earlier this year and then was passed, and requires the Water Conservation Board to develop a statewide program to incentivize people to voluntarily replace turf in their lawns or in cities in general, and install water-wise landscaping or xeriscaped gardens. The bill really focuses on resilience overall and increasing municipal demand, as well as protecting natural river flows, as to why it's beneficial for Colorado to be funding this. But for each jurisdiction to kind of adopt their own regulations, and what fits for them is definitely a little bit more customizable. The goal is just to remove as much non-essential turf as possible from the state and conserve as much water as possible. And so non-essential turf can be medians, it can be the sides of roads, sloped areas, shaded areas, kind of areas where grass may have failed in the past. Could be stormwater drainage areas, anything like that that's currently just using these high water need plants. And kind of the big takeaway from this is there's $2 million that's going to be distributed starting July of 2023. So it's really just a great opportunity to kind of get something started and get the ball rolling, as there is increasing interest overall, and the state is kind of actively offering money for it. The funds that are going to be distributed will be able to be used at a 50% basis of direct and indirect costs related to turf replacement. The official guidelines for what's going to make one community kind of more competitive than another haven't really been released yet, but based on the definitions in the bill itself and also conversations I've had with other communities in Colorado who are working on similar projects, we do have a pretty good idea of what they're looking for. It can be really any property within the city. It can be the city's property, residential property, commercial, industrial, or institutional property. And the main prohibited uses of the funding are going to be non-living replacements. You can't replace turf with entirely rock. Like, you can have rock or non-living features in a garden. It just can't be the majority of it. And you can't replace turf with a water feature or a fountain. That kind of defeats the purpose. In addition to water intensive species, or replacing turf with turf wouldn't be allowed, but that's all fairly self-explanatory as to what the goal of this bill is. And so kind of continuing down that path, the bill definitely focuses on three major aspects of turf conversion. And this is utility, conservation, and aesthetics, not just kind of any one of those three. To best meet those needs, it includes kind of working soil health, efficient irrigation, water-wise, kind of less water-intensive plant species, in addition to applying mulch and maintaining the overall beauty of our landscape. So none of this means that there can't be Kentucky bluegrass. This doesn't mean that there can't be yards that still have Kentucky bluegrass. There's no grass ban or anything, and I understand that's not what a lot of residents probably want. But it is helpful to kind of get started on something and at least create a basis for a program while there is funding here, so that then if there is more funding in the future or repetitive years of droughts or something like that, you wouldn't have to start from the ground up. You already have some basis to work off of that's allowing you more flexibility and time to consider as there's this kind of transition from Kentucky bluegrass into native or water-wise landscaping. So there's many different ways that this can be approached, and different communities are approaching it differently. But one of the approaches that I wanted to share would be just building an incentives program from the ground up for Inglewood residents. This definitely sounds daunting and it can take a lot of time, but there are a lot of different resources available to communities that want to start projects like this. And there's many other cities that can be used as examples that have already kind of got the ball rolling. One of those cities would be Aurora. They have a grass replacement incentive program that's the most developed in the state and the longest running. I'll kind of go over that a little bit on the next slide. Another approach would be to partner with Resource Central. Resource Central is a really unique local nonprofit. They're based out of Boulder, and they have a really huge impact in our state. They're currently partnered with nearly 50 communities across Colorado that are utilizing their various water-wise programs. And these programs come in a few different forms. I'll also cover that a little bit. But if there's kind of hesitation towards building an incentives program from the ground up just due to resources, cost, or time, partnering with a nonprofit such as Resource Central, I think they're the only one in the state that does turf replacement. It's a good way to already kind of have that base of expertise and information for turf replacement already set up. A third option, this is kind of also what Aurora is doing right now, is they're mixing an incentives program, their GRIP program, while also implementing policies to ban turf for new developments. It's a little bit more strict and excessive than most communities are doing, but that is also a potential option. So kind of to cover Aurora's GRIP program a little bit, as I said, it is the longest running turf replacement program in the state. They've been running it for 15 years now, so it's taken a few different forms as it's kind of evolved. But as it currently stands, Aurora is using both a carrot and a stick approach, as I kind of stated, and they're incentivizing developed turf to be replaced while also regulating the new turf that new developments may consider planting. They offer a rebate program based on materials used rather than square foot of grass removed. Fort Collins and Castle Rock both focus more on the square footage of grass, but Aurora focusing on materials used gives the resident a bit more flexibility with what they can do with their materials and how much money they can kind of put into it. Aurora uses money from their conservation budget and they pay it to the resident in two parts. 65% is upfront so that they can help with some of that initial material cost, but then they pay 35% of the rebate after a year. And this really helps ensure proper implementation, proper maintenance, and care of the plants as well. And as I kind of alluded to, not every community has the resources, time, or the want to develop their own incentives program or the materials to fund turf replacement. And this is where a partner like Resource Central could really come in handy, and one of the reasons why so many different communities across Colorado are utilizing their programs. It's definitely not as customizable as if you built your own program, but they do offer multiple different options here and many others as well. But these are the three that are kind of closest related to turf replacement. The Garden in a Box program is the cheapest one to participate in. Unfortunately, it probably will not qualify for the House bill funding just because it doesn't actually require you to remove any turf. But they do provide the resident with a pre-made kit of native and low water use plants from Colorado, which definitely gets them started on thinking about turf replacement, but it doesn't mean that they have to. Their lawn removal service that they offer and their grass to garden program both probably would qualify for the funding. And the reasoning for that is the lawn removal service is just what it sounds like. They come and remove 200 square feet or more of a resident's lawn and then put them in touch with a xeriscape advisor who kind of consults them through planting their xeriscape garden. So it Resource Central in that case takes care of the lawn removal and then they put the xeriscaping on the resident. The grass to garden is kind of the exact opposite of that program, where they leave the lawn replacement to the resident, but then once the resident can show that they have removed a certain amount of turf from their lawn, they get 2 Garden in a Box kits delivered to them in an effort to kind of get them started and already have the plants ready to go for the xeriscaping garden.
Hey, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Does Resource Central operate all over the state or just Front Range or what?
They operate all over the state.
Cool.
So kind of to sum everything up and just give some general recommendations from what I've found so far, I think that the best use for the dispersal of the House bill funding in the short term would be to provide some sort of incentive to residents to remove high water use turf. There's definitely kind of the public interest there, and also now there's the funding there. And so this could be accomplished through partnering with Resource Central. You would get to choose the number of rebates that you offer and at what cost. Or it could be achieved through kind of developing your own program, such as Aurora's Grip, probably starting smaller, but you would definitely kind of be able to customize it where you have your own regulations, your own flexibility, and your own verification of success of implementation. As I said, that's likely a much more time consuming and kind of expensive option, but either of these options would be definitely a good use of some of the available funding while not jumping too far into turf replacement and not restricting anything, but still providing kind of a base of incentives in case more state funding comes shortly after July of 2023, depending on how successful this bill is. In the long term, I also had some just general kind of best practices and other things to consider that I wanted to share. I would say in general, updating codes, updating landscape manuals, trying to kind of change the living and non-living recommendations for landscaping. All of these things can help show that you're open to xeriscaping, but also would look very good for dispersal of funding like House Bill 221151. In addition, education, public outreach can do a significant amount in gaining interest in any of the programs you choose to set up, but that would, again, look good for the House bill funding as well. And another thing that I just think would be good to consider is trying to lead by example on the city's property itself. And that really shows some initiative where it also can provide an example for the public and for residents where they can see a beautiful xeriscaped lawn, such as Arapahoe County's 3-acre conversion, and understand that just because it's water conservation and things are changing, it can still be aesthetically pleasing, it can still be utilized well, and it can be beneficial to the community overall. So it's kind of difficult to value resilience, especially put a dollar amount on it. But the willingness of individuals to kind of invest money into these things definitely goes up once issues are present, and that's the case for local governments as well. In this case, I think that the issues that would eventually become present could be elongated droughts, hotter summers, higher water bills, and just kind of more dead turf overall. So having at least something of a framework for incentives now could provide a good base to build off of in the future rather than potentially a hastily planned solution if something is needed at a much faster rate. I've also got some just related resources and links. I'll make sure to get this presentation to Mel so that she can get it to all of you.
That'd be great.
And I'm also happy to answer any questions you guys might have on this call. I'm also happy to answer them through email. I've got my email set up there. And I'll be giving another presentation to the City Council in December. I believe Mel will also be following up with a cost basis presentation and some other options as well, including Resource Central. So thanks for
That's
your time. I
fantastic.
appreciate it. And I'm definitely happy to answer anything you guys might have.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Love that presentation. I appreciate the focus on 1151 because I know that's coming up in about 6 to 8 months. That program should be live. Did he drop off?
I think I'm still here. I just turned off
there you
the
are. Okay.
presentation.
Well, he's done, that's fine. Let me think. I appreciate you laying out the sort of, the carrot and the stick, the DIY. One of those, you did mention that it had a program fee. Do you know what that entails, or can you talk about that a little bit?
So Mel has been in touch with the actual people regarding cost of Resource Central a little bit better, but Resource Central is the one that requires an upfront program fee. As far as I'm aware, like I said, the Garden in a Box one wouldn't count, but I believe that Mel said the initial fee for the lawn removal service was $4,500. And then on top of that, you guys would get to decide how many rebates you offer and at what dollar amount. I think Edgewater recently did 6 at like $500 a piece. There was another community that did 8 at like $1,000 a piece. So that's definitely more customizable on what you guys want to do and how much money you guys would want to put into it. But there is that initial program fee up front for them to cover their own resources, marketing, and outreach.
And that's the cost for the city to partner with Resource Central, or is that the same cost if I wanted to partner with them as a resident of Inglewood?
So to be able to partner with them, you do have to be, I believe, a local government, at least some sort of organization. So if an individual goes to them or goes to the website, it'll pull up a list where they can put in their address and information, and it will pull up if they're eligible for any incentives. So if anyone in Inglewood did it, they would basically just see like contact your water provider or your local government for more info because there's nothing available at the moment. And so, yeah, I think that
makes
answers
sense.
it fairly well.
So we'd go through the city as residents. Okay.
Right.
Question.
And then they
Go
would
ahead.
put in the initial money for the program itself, pass the program fee, and then you would be responsible for that, whatever the rebate you choose is. So
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Jeremiah and maybe Joe can weigh in on this. There's a program development process that apparently is required. You've laid out some great overview information. You've also given us 2 or 3 ways that the city could proceed. How does Englewood get from here to there, and what would the role of this committee be to maybe encourage it to get from here to there? It seems like something has to crystallize a little more than what we've got so far. Somebody's got to make some decisions. And I think the Sustainability Commission would be enthused about helping, cheering on, supporting it. But going from concept to program is a big leap. Is there a process in place, or would Jeremiah have to invent one, or what,
Or do we?
where do we go from here, I guess, is my question.
Well,
I
I
can
think,
try to, or go ahead.
I was just, from a city council perspective, I mean, we would just have to have sufficient staff resources to run the program. We'd have to, make sure it's in the budget and then run it through council to approve it. And with it, whether that's just within the budgeting process or if it's an RFP to have another organization run it, or however we would do that. But any recommendation from, if this was something, Sustainability Commission wanted to recommend to council, then that would, along with the support of Mel, if there was sufficient staff support for it, that's what it would take to get it done, is having all those pieces come together.
So the more structure or specificity that could go to the council, the better off it would be. So you don't want to approve a concept, you want to approve a model or a program or a game plan. This is a good idea or not, let's vote on it. And then would Jeremiah be tasked or requested to help flesh that out? To go from, okay, there's 3 or 4 ways to go. We think this is the best way to go. I'll shut up, Jeremiah. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I kind of wanted to see what all of your thoughts were on this first. I know that I did provide a few different options. I didn't want to make it kind of too restrictive right off the bat because I figured that would probably just get shut down immediately. And so I did want to make it something that you guys would be able to kind of customize and have an option with. That being said, I think that, yeah, certainly you wouldn't be able to turn in that presentation to the state and get funding for it. Like it would have to be a more solid plan that actually lays out what your goals are and where your money would be going. But you don't actually have to have started the program until the funding is released. And then there's a year period that you're expected to begin using those funds within. Otherwise, it goes back into a pool for a similar project. And so
Dana?
that's another benefit where you kind of choose.
Okay.
What you thought, Dana?
But the Sustainability Commission could take some ownership in this, is what I'm hearing.
I think we can. Dana, go ahead, ask your question. We'll come right back.
Yeah.
So one question, Jeremiah, I had heard that cities that have existing programs stand a better chance of getting funding through the bill. Have you heard that?
So as I kind of said, it's still pretty vague on what will actually make one community more competitive than another. You won't get funding if you don't have a plan, basically. That's kind of just pretty clear. And so I think even if you set up a decent plan or kind of what you're looking for, you don't have to necessarily get it started right away. You could wait to see if that plan will qualify for the funding overall and then start implementation. As far as like an existing turf replacement program, I don't really know how much it's going to matter if you're expanding a program versus starting one, just because the whole goal here is just to get more turf replacement across the entire state. And so I think some of that is still to be determined, and especially between now and December, there might be some more guidelines on that have been released that I'll be able to present on again and update you all on. But as far as right now, that's kind of what I know regarding that.
Thanks, that makes sense. Is your thinking and Mel's thinking about the Garden in a Box program that if the city did it, they would offer subsidized garden in a boxes similar to the Arbor Day program with lower cost trees for residents?
Yeah, so that is very, very similar to how it works. That one, I think, does have the most public interest overall. It seems like the most people know about Garden in a Box over the other programs. However, that one, you wouldn't really be able to get funded by the state, although you could still partner with them on your own. And so the way that works, yeah, the city would be offering a rebate to them for them paying Resource Central to go and then pick up their xeriscape plants and their kind of pre-made box that then they mulch and put into their yard on their own.
It seems like that could be pursued while developing a more extensive turf replacement program that could get bill funding, right?
Yeah, I think that is a decent option as well. Kind of if you end up going the route of Resource Central, I think that any combination of the 3 programs that I mentioned would be beneficial. It's just kind of a matter of, I guess, Mel would probably know more on the initial fees on each one, in addition to kind of how much you guys are willing to put into it at the moment, and if you want that House bill funding, or if you're just trying to start your own program.
Jeremiah, how long are you with the city? How long have we got you for?
I think until about December 15th.
Okay. When's our
But
next?
I'm always willing to help out. I can jump on another meeting, even if it's after I've graduated, anything like that. So
Okay. Yeah, we might like to have you as a resource.
Yeah,
And Mel
definitely.
can talk to this a lot too. I know she can. I think that we can continue to discuss this. And to what you were getting at earlier, Mike, because I think there is a plan of action here for the Sustainability Commission. Even if it's a letter of recommendation, similar to what we wrote with the water efficiency plan and what we had recommended to council. You know, we've seen Aurora go one route, the carrot and the stick. We've seen Castle Rock, as Jeremiah mentioned, sort of a more top-down approach. And I was so surprised when I have all these articles pulled up in front of me. I was so surprised when I read that the city of Castle Rock unanimously banned turf on front yards after the new year. I don't know if that's something the city of Inglewood would fly with the city, but maybe. I think if we had a thorough plan with data backing up our recommendations, that might be the best route to go. Whatever option we choose to recommend, but I think there's a role there. Tim, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Logan. Sorry if this was already addressed, but just to kind of close the loop on kind of moving forward, on December 5th, Mel and I believe Jeremiah are going to council in a study session to, I think it's more conceptual, but to basically present the concept and see, you know, what council's temperature is about where to go from there. So I don't believe they plan, and Jeremiah, please correct me if I'm wrong, in having a fully baked plan, but it's more like a presentation tonight to kind of see if council wants to move forward, and then a development would follow. So certainly the commission could, you know, decide to provide information to council as part of that discussion, or they can wait till it becomes, you know, if council says, go ahead and develop more of a plan, then the commission could weigh in then as well.
I like that.
So-
I'm just curious about timing with the budget. What's your question, quick? I know we had to have, what's timing on the city budget? Did we have to have any requests in by December? Or can we make an amendment later to the budget requesting if we did want to allocate some funding to this grant program next summer?
We can always, yeah, we can always make an amendment.
Okay.
That's always possible.
Okay.
It would be easier to get it in a future year budget, you know.
Yeah.
But
Okay, Mike.
I have a strong opinion that somewhere between a concept and a fully baked plan, for example, if Jeremiah could work with some of the members of sustainability and even put together a crisp outline with direction. You don't have to flesh it out. It literally could be a 2-page outline that simply says, of the 4 ways of going, we think these 2 are the best. We think these are the key points. We think this is what we ought to do. And Sustainability Commission feels this way. So, again, I'm sympathetic to city council. They need something to chew on.
Yep.
So they need something to respond to that is somewhere before, it's agreed, not a fully baked plan,
Sure.
but it's got to have some direction, and maybe Sustainability Commission could eliminate 2 of the 4 options, or even come to an agreement. This is the approach that we think would make the most sense. And again, I know I'm being pushy on this, but time is of the essence.
Mm-hmm.
And even if city council said, actually, that's a great idea, but we don't want to do it, that's okay. We got it in front of them. We pushed it. We got a consensus behind it. And if that was approved, then other people could flesh it out and get more granular with it. That's just my thought. I've done program development in the past.
Yeah.
I've seen things die on the vine in the conceptual pondering phase. And if you don't move it, it gives something to respond to, it'll just die on the vine. So that's my bias.
We don't want perfection to get in the way of progress. I see Jeremiah nodding. Go ahead.
Just a couple quick things to kind of throw in there. I am going to also be creating kind of a recommendations paper on how I think that the city council should move forward. That's definitely something that I can work with any of you from the sustainability committee on. I'll also be working with Mel on that, but that's a place where some of that could be kind of directed and input. On top of that, I also wanted to mention regarding the kind of more strict turf replacement like Aurora, where some places might not accept that. I think a decent other option that you could do would be to ban turf in new developments, but only for kind of commercial or industrial properties or turf that has failed in the past. And that way it doesn't kind of directly make it so that people can't put it in their lawns, but you're able to still kind of cut down on some of those new developments turf. So it's just a little bit of my input.
That's great. I think we'd certainly like to work with you on that, Jeremiah. And even if it's something that you could draft up for us, we can flesh out as a commission, sort of put our name on it together, and we can get that in front of council. That seems like the goal here, right?
Yeah.
Happy to work on that with you. I'm happy to follow up, and sounds like Mike might be as well. We can follow up with you and continue that conversation after the meeting this evening. I see Tim and Dana's hands raised. Dana, why don't you go? I think you had yours up first.
Okay, so I'll try to talk and drive, safely
Careful.
and clearly. So the one thing is some cities that have turf replacement programs make, include language about supporting native landscaping, and even like Fort Collins offers a higher rebate rate if you're planting native plants or a certain percentage of native. And it's my opinion that the real missed opportunity in this turf bill that's not part of the languaging. And if we're replacing our landscapes, we can get more benefit by using native plants. So I hope that that's part of the language, and that resources, educating people about the most beneficial plants will be part of this.
Absolutely.
That's very true. And there's definitely a lot of different resources for like databases of native Colorado plants that could work well for this, that have low water like needs. But yeah, that is definitely something to focus on, and something that they'll be looking at as well for the House bill funding itself is not necessarily a specific amount of native plants, but just that there is a focus towards that being the best practice and educating the public on using native plants. Resource Central does mostly, if not entirely, use native Colorado plants.
Actually, if I may say, they are making more of an effort, and in the last year they offered 3 of their boxes were native. Previously, none of them were fully native.
Okay.
So they're moving that way. Part of their issue is availability at nurseries.
Right. That is a little different. That's a bit different than what they told me. So I'll get in touch with Mel and see what they told her on that, and then we'll kind of go from there. But
Messaging. Do we want to, so our next meeting, if y'all are presenting to council the first week of December, thank you, Dana. Our meeting is, when y'all presenting to council, did I misstate that? Is that next week or is it in December?
it's December 5th.
December 5th. So our next meeting is the 13th. Strategy wise, would it be beneficial, Jeremiah, Councilman Anderson, to have that document ready when you go present to council, or is this something that we can flesh out at our next meeting?
I would wait
We'll have
for,
to vote on it.
after the study session and see what kind of council, what the census from council is. And then we have something, all right, let's send this back to the Sustainability Commission and Mel to work on, proposal or whatever. But if we're gonna get a similar presentation, then no use working on something until after you get a little feedback from council. It's kind of my
That's the goal, I
sense on
think.
it. Yeah.
You agree, Stephen, generally? Christine. Kara, I can't see you, but I would assume you'd speak up if you had other thoughts. Any other questions for Jeremiah? Tim, I know you had your hand raised for a second. You took it down. I just wanted to make sure we're just, no, we're not excluding anybody here.
No, no, it was fun last time. I just forgot to take it down.
I didn't hear that. Say that again, Tim.
No, it was from when I spoke. I forgot to take it down after that.
Oh, classic. Anything else for Jeremiah while we've got him here? I do plan to follow up with you. I would probably do that through Mel, Jeremiah. But
Yeah, definitely.
if no other questions, I
Great
thought,
job.
great, yeah, genuinely, great job there. The presentation was informative and educational. I know I took some notes and have some takeaways, and I'll have some follow-up questions inevitably. So I just want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks for your work that you're doing, not only in your studies, but also with the city of Inglewood. Are you planning on coming? Are you in Colorado right now? Are you planning on coming back? Are you in Pennsylvania? Where are you at?
I'm Denver based right now.
Okay.
I'm actually finishing up my degree online. So
Fantastic.
yeah, I'm living at about 53rd and Lowell, just
Okay.
working
not too
with
far.
Inglewood.
I love it. Well, thanks for being with us this evening.
Yeah,
We'll
thank you
follow
all
up.
so much.
Thank you.
Definitely feel free to reach out, email, or through Mel.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's pivot a little bit, gang. I've got Christine next, just on a quick update to the EV Action Plan. Microphone's yours.
Okay. The EV Action Plan group, we had our first in-person meeting. It was mostly setting the baseline for where EVs stand today in Inglewood, and setting a vision for where we would like to get to, and then starting to think about some focus areas that the plan would have. From there, our next meeting will start to dive into actual strategies for those goals. So this is run through a consultant called the Brindle Group. They're excellent, and they run all of Xcel Energy's Partners in Energy programming, and that's Xcel wanting to be more supportive of the communities it serves and be more partners with the communities to make sure that it's offering what the communities need and shaping itself in tandem with communities shaping themselves. So they're not working at odds. And this is all with Xcel's goal of heading towards 80% renewables by 2030. I think they're actually a little bit ahead of that. And then 100% emission free by 2050. And they know that they'll have a whole bunch of increased load coming from EVs. So they'll have to be supplying more power at the same time they're moving all their power to be cleaner. So they want to make sure that they're planning that in the short term all the way through the long term. So they have a goal of helping to support 1.5 million EVs on the road in their service territory, and saving their customers, Xcel Energy's customers, $1 billion. We looked at the baseline, the vision, the focus areas, and then after that, we'll get into more the actual strategies. As far as the baseline, the scales have been not quite skyrocketing, but on that trajectory, dramatic year over year increases in the number of sales. I'll show this chart to you guys here in the room so you can just get a sense of the yearly growth here. Sorry, you guys on the screen can't see, but you'll have to take my word for it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Shows growth.
Yes, especially in 2021 and 2022. And then we reviewed the types of charging, level 1, level 2, level 3, with level 1 being that it takes hours and hours and hours. That's just a normal plug, any plug in any wall. You can charge your car from that, but it would take maybe 12 hours. The more common one that we're looking at is the kind that takes 4 to 6 hours, which is what most people would do just to charge their car overnight where they live. And that one is like a dryer outlet essentially. And then the level 3 is the fast chargers, where those are what you want when you're out and about on the road, on a road trip or something like that, where you can charge in 20 to 30 minutes. So the idea is to get the right mix of those, probably mostly ignoring level 1, but get the right mix of level 2 at households, maybe some offices, and then get the level 3 at a few strategic places around town for people that are coming through, that are visiting, that are tourists, or that just happen to be passing through and need a quick charge. So the consultants Brendel group, they looked at all of the other related efforts happening in Inglewood. I was pretty impressed. They've been really doing their research on our sustainability plan, the Downtown Development Authority, the existing efforts to look at fleet electrification within the city, talking with Public Works, and so forth, and then starting to coordinate with that with Arapahoe County's EV planning efforts. There were some really interesting notes about the demographics in Inglewood, and they noted that about 3/4 of residents drive to their work about 25 minutes each way. And so even though transit, biking, walking are part of the solution, getting more EVs into circulation is where we'll get the biggest and fastest emission reductions. And not mentioning city planning and walkability and bikeability and livability and et cetera, but just looking at plain emission reductions, accelerating that transition over to EVs is key. And then related to that, about 1/3 of our residents in Inglewood are in multifamily buildings, 5 units or more. About half of our residents rent their home. So the difference between that 1/3 and that half are people that rent just individual houses. And to me, that was good, really good context for thinking about making sure that our new multifamily buildings get EV charging in there already.
Absolutely.
And then making it easier for households, half of which are, a lot of which are renters, making it easier for those landlords or those household owners to put in an EV charger. That kind of level 2. So right now we only have a few in the city, but we have plans underway for a few more, and the Downtown Development Authority is really involved, and they're part of the working group to make sure that we could get those chargers strategically located where it will help their businesses, so we could kind of get that economic development component in there.
Kristen, I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned Xcel being a part of the working group. Who else are representatives?
Almost every city department that is affected has a person.
Okay.
And then Downtown Development Authority, realtors, people that work on the state level effort for EV planning and grants. Someone is on the working group from Inglewood School District, but I don't think she was there this past time. And there's a guy who owns a used car dealership who does have used EVs coming through his sales. And so a pretty good mix of folks.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Xcel has really good incentives. They are putting their force behind this to try to make it happen. So they have rebates for homeowners, I think about $500 for existing homes to put in an EV, put in the right charger and wiring. And rebates for income qualified homeowners to buy, I think not even homeowners, residents to buy an EV or a used EV. An instant an instant rebate. So $5,500 off the cost of a new one or $3,000 off the cost of a used one.
It's not a small amount of money. If it costs 500 to outfit an existing home, what is the overall cost? Is it several thousand or is that about half? I mean, I'm just.
Up to 500 is what they will provide.
Mhm.
And they have a calculator on their website that looks at, where is your panel? Where is your garage? How far is it in
Got it.
between them?
Yeah.
And how open is it? And so if your panel's in your garage right there and the walls are
Cheaper.
open already,
Yeah.
then it's really cheap.
Subjective, okay.
If your panel's all the way on the other side of your house and your garage is attached, then it's a lot more.
Makes sense.
Yep. It's way cheaper, obviously, to just put it in when you're building a new house. But since we're mostly built out, we have to look at all of the above for not just new houses, but retrofitting the existing ones.
Michael, question?
This is a little bit of a tangent, but
Go for it.
the Englewood trolley
Mm-hmm.
just drives me crazy. Why
Mhm.
isn't that electric? And is there any discussion in terms of grants, even symbolically? If Englewood could electrify one trolley,
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be wonderful. I've done some
Yeah.
homework and
Yeah.
there's a company in Loveland that actually retrofits. So even if you had a fleet of municipal
Oh, cool.
vehicles, you'd say, well, this one's gonna go to the junkyard next year, let's make it electric. Is there any encouragement like that coming from this discussion? Or are there any opportunities for Englewood to at
Mhm.
least, from a public relations, communications, education, do as we say, do as we do? I just think it'd be great.
Yeah.
And so can you do anything about that, Christine?
For sure. Yeah, and I think that all of the above
Oh, great.
is in the desire and the plan, or what will end up being the plan. And I think that kind of falls into fleet electrification.
Uh-huh.
So
School
essentially,
buses.
yeah,
Yeah.
city-owned.
Yeah.
Vehicles. And there's a lot of incentive money available from the state and then now from the federal government and additional help from Xcel.
Yeah.
So we could put all the pieces together. And I think that communications part is a really good point because it's essentially a running billboard
Exactly,
for
exactly.
all electric, and it'd be super quiet, super smooth. So.
And it could be charged in public. I mean, you get a charging
Uh-huh.
station
Uh-huh.
in front of the municipal building.
Yeah. Yeah.
See what we're doing. Anyways, you're on track. Keep up the good work. I love
Yeah.
it.
I would echo that. I don't know if the working group can put together a working document to highlight and sort of put those pieces together, put numbers to paper,
Mhm.
to present to council, to present to us, and just sort of see what that looks like, in terms of cost savings. What does it cost the city to electrify? And how long would it take to make that up?
Good
Right?
idea.
5 years, 10 years? I don't know. I'd like to see those.
Boulder's already done it. Boulder has a shuttle that uses the company in Longmont, Lightning Motors. And so there's already one in place that has those numbers. So Boulder can answer the question. Every time we convert one of these shuttle buses to electric, payback is 5 years, or whatever it is. So that data is out there. And I mean, it's relevant,
Mhm.
but I think it would be exciting if we could even just do one shuttle.
Mhm.
Just do one and
Start.
maybe get a grant to do it,
There are definitely grants
Yeah.
out there. That's a
And-
good idea. I'll put
Yeah.
the word in
Yeah.
for that. I hear more about replacing vehicles as
Mm-hmm.
they reach one
Right.
gets timed out and then you need to buy a new
Yeah.
one, make the new one EV, but that's a good person to look at retrofitting some too.
One point on that is, I don't believe we own the shuttles. I think that's a contract.
That's a point.
And ridership is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's come back a little bit. Last 2 years, really bad for
Yeah.
not sustainable levels.
Right.
for
I wondered about that.
Mhm.
What about school buses? I mean, Englewood School District obviously buses wear out. And this Lightning Motors, I just did a contract for a school system in Alabama. And so as they're phasing out their old school buses, they're just converting them to electricity. And again, they have the numbers to say it is, but I mean, I'd love to see, we know we need school buses
Mhm.
and we know they wear out and they need to be replaced. So instead of replacing them with gas or diesel,
Yeah,
we replace them with electric.
that seems to me to be a top priority
I
because
think
you
so.
have the little kiddos
Yeah.
breathing diesel
Yeah.
exhaust.
So, but that's in place. There's, and this company would bend over backwards coming in to make a sales pitch and all the rest, but I'm just saying it's there. The resources are in place. I'd love to see Englewood do something in that direction.
Yeah,
How often do you all meet? Is this quarterly or is this monthly?
I'm gonna say every couple months. So we've got
Okay.
our first and the next one's coming up. And then the inner working group, the consultants, and probably Mel, for instance, they meet bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly?
Uh-huh. And so I think the plan will end up being 4 to 5 focus areas, and fleets would be one of them. City-owned fleets, school bus fleets, and then any business fleets, but we don't really have a lot of businesses that have fleets. And then another bucket might be public charging, so strategically putting a few fast chargers here and there. Then another bucket might be public adoption, which would have education and outreach and that sort of thing. And then a policy bucket. So are there things that need changed in our code or in our zoning, permitting, anything like that?
Jess, you have your hand up.
That's funny. I didn't realize that, but I was thinking something. Maybe I didn't even realize it. I was thinking something, but one comment I was thinking about was I'd be curious to know more about this because you were talking about school bus fleets. My son goes to Charles Hay and we're not even offered the option to use the school bus. So I'm wondering what schools in the district even use a school bus, even any of them. And then, but like I said, I don't know the background on that, but at this point, we're not even being offered the option to use the school bus.
Good question.
Yeah, so or could I comment on that really quick or?
I didn't catch that. What did you say, Tim?
Oh, just could I comment on the comment about the school district really quick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, so and again, I don't work for the school district, so I could be off, but my understanding is that the school district policy is that you have to live 2 miles or more from school in order to get busing. And so a few of the elementary schools have very few students that would qualify based on that. And so we are working right now on a Safe Routes to School program. For one of the elementary schools downtown, where actually only 6 students take the bus. And so again, I can't speak to school department policy, but my understanding is that's why they don't do a lot of busing, is that they have a 2-mile radius rule.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic update.
Mhm.
I'll be eager to see what sort of progress you all make at your next meeting as well. Let us know if we can help you with ideas or vet anything from your group or vice versa. Any other questions for Christine? Tim's hand is still raised. I'm not sure if that's intentional.
It's not.
It's a high five.
High five.
Yeah, high five.
Christine, thank you for the update. Looking forward to the next, see what kind of developments you guys bring back. I know you have a few minutes. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
So December meeting ideas. We've talked about a few. Wish Mel was here to recount a conversation that we had a few weeks ago, because I'll inevitably forget a few things. With the holiday light judging, looking forward to that in a few weeks. Christina expressed some interest. Jess, I know you've expressed some interest. I'm certainly interested. Uh, Rachel, I haven't spoken with her. I need to reach out, and that's 4. And then we'll have Mel. So anybody can tag. I hope Mel can lock down the bus again. We just had a blast last year. So look for details from me and Mel for that in December. And in terms of December meeting ideas, we're sort of open. I think I would like to revisit the turf replacement conversation and see where we're at with that after it sounds like Mike and I, have a conversation with Jeremiah. And the Xcel train the trainer, Mel and I are working to set that up for January. The DDA is booked out for several months, but I think that would be a fantastic presentation. It looks like either February, or March. So I'm open to ideas for December at this point. My vote would be maybe revisit turf replacement, see where we're at there. That's one agenda item. Any ideas from the commission? Councilman Anderson, what we might want to take up, what's pertinent, what's timely, what's coming up before council? What do we need to push right now?
I have one simple idea. The leaf composting went well this last weekend. They changed the model, so we had too many volunteers.
Wow.
They're collecting leaves during the week now.
Okay.
Which is actually a great idea. So we're all dressed up with nowhere to go. We had a whole bunch of
in the
people.
kitchen.
So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
They figured it out. But one thing I learned, and I didn't know this, there's an outfit called Colorado Composting that is in place. They will go to individual residences, $30 a month, 1 bucket per month. I didn't know such a thing existed. I had heard it had to be an apartment building. Anyways, why wouldn't we put an article about them in the next Englewood or have them come and talk to us? But the world needs to know that's available.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a lot of people who would do composting if they knew it was possible. I'm a composter. I didn't know it was possible. So it's real simple. I just wonder somewhere, could we get a plug into the Englewood Quarterly magazine, and maybe the sustainability gives it the good housekeeping seal of approval and says, hey, citizens, you might want to look into this.
Sure.
But I think it's a good thing, and it's got a good track record, and it's $30 a month. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Maybe
So,
Tim can speak to that.
Yeah.
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but
Yeah.
the city was not awarded the composting
Right.
grant. So let me know. Tim, can you speak to that at all? Was there anything that maybe we could have done as a commission to bolster that application, or Councilman Anderson, anybody want to,
what happened?
what kind of happened there?
I can't speak to the details, but the Mel did get a report essentially that explained, and I can't think of what they are off the top of my head, but basically
That's fine.
what the reasons were. So I can ask if she could just send that report to you or summarize it to you. But we do have that, and then they also did offer to meet with her to basically do a debrief on how we can make a stronger application for next year. So while we were unsuccessful, I think we have they are providing us with enough information that we can use that to refine it for future years.
Okay, the blocks have been built, and we can go from there. Kara. Okay, still can't hear you. I don't know what that is. You can email me your question or something. I can see you, but we can't hear you. Feel free to put it in chat too. I can figure that out. I'll just will it into existence. If I can figure out the chat on this. Okay. One moment, please. Where were we? Would it be beneficial, while Kara gets her question in, for December? What if I just put together like a quick year-end review? Maybe what we've tackled, what we've wanted to tackle, what we've accomplished, what still remains.
Be great.
Would that be helpful?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything, too exhaustive or
No, I
lengthy.
want to really exhaust, I want you to.
Well, let's put some time into this thing. Let's have a full report. But I think that would just be, good information for us to have.
I just want you to do that.
It sounds like it. So, yeah, go ahead, run with it, Logan.
No, I think it's great.
But, I'm happy to put that together and then, run it by the commission and just I don't know, the right term is a report card, but, or at least a year in review for the first year of the Sustainability Commission and what we've accomplished and what's on the horizon. I think that would be
Little evaluation.
little eval.
No, that's good.
Good idea. Good time for it too,
December, yeah, yeah. Anything, did Kara get her question in?
Yeah.
Let's read it. Kara, I'd love to re-engage sustainable landscaping discussions. I know I've been absent due to medical reasons, but I think I have my schedule figured out and would love to get those talks going again. Yes, seconded. I think that, who was a part of that original subcommittee? It might have been myself, you, and then we had Dana. But yeah, I think that we can absolutely re-engage those discussions in December. How about you and I connect and we can talk specifics, and we can put together a couple bullet points and get the conversation going again. Does that sound okay if I follow up with you offline or after the fact? Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for being on tonight too. And Dana, I'll follow up with you on that front too. So we've got turf replacement conversation, some sustainable landscaping that Kara and I will work on, and then maybe a year in review for December. Yeah. Any other additions? And that's not final. We're just hashing out some, and then we've got Christmas lighting.
And we'll have a turf replacement update because city council will have.
That's right.
Got the presentation and we'll know. Joe can tell us city council was enthused, not enthused, or had these concerns or what have you.
Yep.
That'd be great.
That sounds like good timing to me.
That's
nice. Great. Public forum. I'm just going to read this verbatim. This is the public forum. Part of the agenda is an opportunity for the public to address the commission regarding items not on the agenda. Commissioners, we may ask questions to the public for clarification, but there is not to be any dialogue here. And anyone from the public has 3 minutes to essentially present to us. And so I wanted to open up the floor to anyone who wants to bring us any ideas or topics that were not included in the posted agenda. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move along. Tim, can I toss it to you for some staff updates? Or is that me?
No, I can. So there were a couple of things on the agenda that Mel has. In the interest of time, though, if it's okay, Logan, I just wanted to go over one of them.
Yep.
I think the others were pretty self-explanatory. So the one that I've wanted to go over for a little bit that I think Mel brought up was kind of how the budget works. And so obviously how the budget works could be a multiple hour discussion, which I'm not going to do tonight. But what I wanted to quickly go over is how it works related to your committee. So in the city of Englewood, budget authority rests at the department level, not the division. You as a commission, your budget is in a department that's called legislative. So essentially it's for city council, and then several, but not all, committees also have budgets. The way it's worked in the past, when this commission was KEB, Will Charles, who was a planner in the city planning department, basically ran the budget for it. He would review, big ticket items and ideas with the commission, but he basically was responsible for coordinating it. And so really Mel's responsibility really is to coordinate what's in your budget. So while it is your budget, and you certainly could, make modifications and proposals for modifications in the future, she's really the one who's tasked with coordinating it. So it's not part of the city manager's office. It is its own budget. There are some legacy programs that you inherited from KEB. Certainly as a commission, you could make a decision in the future about what you want to do about them. I think, and I'll let Councilmember Anderson weigh in. I think there was some interest at the council level when this was switched from KEB to the Sustainability Commission to keep some of those. So it may be the kind of thing that you work with Mel on and maybe develop a proposal to run by council. But that's basically how your budget works. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. On the budget, it's the chicken or the egg. Do we say this is what we need money for? Or does the city say, here's how much money you may have, now tell us how you're gonna spend it? Which way does it go?
Yeah, so the way department budgets usually work is basically starting in February or March, departments basically start. So it's the city manager as the chief executive officer of the city. It's his budget, right? It's the city council's budget. They have final authority over everything. But the city manager is the one who presents the initial budget. So the way it typically works is that departments work with the city manager's office and the finance department. They make proposals. They go through a very detailed process where they present to council. There's an internal committee called the Budget Review Committee. And then eventually, the city manager determines based on council input and based on staff input, he basically packages a budget that he presents to council. Council goes through it in the fall and then usually approves it by October and November. So to answer your question, basically departments make proposals. So as a commission, you could make proposals of what you'd like to see in your budget, but then it goes to the city manager and ultimately goes to council. So you're not told do this. You get a chance to make a proposal, but then ultimately the decision is made by city council.
Another way of stating it though, and I'm okay with this, if we said nothing, we didn't appeal to the city for $1, probably the city manager would say, well, I put some money in there for you. In other words, the city expects us to do something and the city would probably expect to give us some kind of a budget, even if we didn't know what we wanted it for. Is that making sense?
Kind of. So we do not do zero-based budgeting.
Okay.
Like some cities do. So we've and things may shift because we're likely facing some financial challenges in the next couple of years, like most cities will be, most organizations will be.
Yeah.
But typically, we have an analyst now in the finance department, and part of his role is basically analyzing how funds are spent year over year. And so if your commission budget is showing that you typically are spending money and you're running the same programs you've ran, again, we don't do zero-based budgeting, so you're not going to get cleared out, and then have to make a case to rebuild it. You're basically just going to get the same funding.
Okay.
And again, this may shift, because of our global financial challenges, not our financial challenges, but that's typically how it works, is that it's built from the prior year budget.
Well, I'm not so sure we need a budget, frankly, because in the past, our budget was really a pass-through. As Will explained it, hazardous waste, leaf recycling, those were plugged numbers. They were necessary, but it wasn't like we voted on them or asked for it. They were pass-throughs, which again, I'm okay with that. So for one, I think simple is best. So, I for one am not advocating that we should be arguing to have a big budget on this commission. I mean, it's, unless there's a need for it, I'm comfortable not having a big budget. So anyway, that's just one opinion, and I'm comfortable with what the city's doing. I think it makes sense.
Sorry about that. I had to make sure that with Councilman Anderson leaving that we're not locked in the building. It's happened before.
Slumber party.
Yeah. Slumber party. Any questions for Tim? Thank you for the dialogue.
We talked.
Sounds like when Mel returns, we can revisit the issue, and if we need to take any action, we can do so.
And if we need money, we can ask for it.
Is that the conclusion?
Yeah, but we don't even have to ask for it.
Budget. So you're going to have a budget, which I think is around $75,000 starting when the fiscal year starts, which is on January 1st. and that's based on your past spending. As Michael pointed out, I don't know if I necessarily would call it a pass-through, but yes, basically the programs that this commission and the KEB ran in the past did generate income, in the sense of you were charging fees or, or, you were basically doing it in a partnership with Littleton or somewhere else. And so they were putting money into it. And so even though your budget was around $75,000, that's correct, is that the hit on the general fund was not $75,000.
Yep.
Yeah. It was just
We're a profitable commission. That's what we are.
we're a conduit.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
We'll continue.
problem.
Anything from the group? Anything for the good of the order tonight? Go home and watch some election results roll in,
Bring our hands.
see what our country's up to. Not hearing anything. I will work with several of you on a December agenda. We'll get Mel back stateside. We'll have her back in December. Please join us for Christmas lighting, judging. It is a pretty fun outing. If you're interested, just let us know. You have pizza and roll around town for about an hour and a half and judge. Who doesn't like doing that? Okay, if no other topics of discussion are front of mind, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
So moved.
Moved by Stephen,
Second.
seconded by Michael. Thank you guys for the efficient
Thanks.
meeting tonight. Good to see y'all. Good to see you, Kara. I'll follow up. Talk to you next month. Thanks, Tim.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Dana. Bye, Jess.